I just want to take a minute and thank Peter for putting this together. You put a lot of work into it. It's excellent. You guys, let's give him a hand. Really appreciate that. And watching the two of you together since you guys became partners in late 07, early 2008 has been a great example of what partnership, a successful partnership should look like. And you two respected each other, didn't fight in front of any employee. I don't know what you did behind closed doors, maybe sometimes, but we certainly never saw that as your employees, and it was just great leadership. And you put together a great celebration. I keep wanting to say memorial as well, and you're right, it's a celebration of life. So I'm going to try to do this without being emotional. Mike is the only person, at least I've ever been close to, that I would consider a living legend, a true living legend. Most people don't reach a legendary status, if they're lucky enough to do that, until years after they pass, and people kind of think about the things they had done. Mike had such an impact on, especially this industry, our industry, and sales and the people in his life. He was truly a living legend. He got to experience that for quite a few decades, I think, before he passed. And that's pretty amazing when you think about it. And I just think that sums it up. He was definitely a living legend. He had a passion for the industry, and specifically for sales, because that's where he started. He hauled a ton of tours in his early days. He had a passion for it, all the way up until the very end. When he would go to a resort, his resort visits slowed down a lot more, especially the last few years, because he had me going to them instead of him all the time. But when he would go, he was known to push a sales manager out of the way and jump on a table to close it still. Never got out. He loved it. It was in his blood. He had a passion for it. And he was good. He was really good. Anyways, it was interesting. Never seen another developer that would push people out of the way to close tables, and just he loved this industry. And I learned a ton from him. I started in this industry for a group of guys. It's just a really small industry that all worked together back with Mike at Foxwood Hills, and his first job in the industry in South Carolina after he got out of the Citadel. And my actually ex-father-in-law is one of the managers that hired him at Foxwood Hills, and I used to hear stories, of course, about Mike, and he talks about hiring him, and Mike that was his first job in the industry. He never got into any other, he always says any other industry, he was hooked for life. He really loved this membership campground industry. But when you hear the story of him being hired, and especially from one of the managers, and he says, we met afterwards and discussed it. We weren't sure if Mike would be successful or not, because the English was still a little tough to understand. And he said this guy was so persistent and kept convinced, saying he could do it, that we decided to give him a try. The story goes, he sold his first 10 tours, sold all 10 deals, which is saying something. Now, the funny part is, all 10 of those canceled. Now, that's true. They brought him in, they had a meeting beforehand, and were wondering what the heck happened. They called some of these people. Everyone canceled because they didn't know anything. He hadn't told them about the maintenance fees, the dues. So they bring him into a meeting, said, we're going to have to let you go, told him what happened, and they said, you didn't tell him about the maintenance fees. He said, what are maintenance fees? So it turns out in those days, he said, your training was mainly some Zig Ziglar cassette tapes, and they put you with someone right one time. He didn't pick that up, and he said, let me go again. I promise it won't happen, and the rest is history. He was a great sales rep, but it's a funny story, and anyways, and I heard several people talk about it over the years. I met Mike in 2001. I was much younger, 25 years old, with Colorado River Adventure as a sales rep, and I was a lot different at 25. Mike watched me grow up. Anyways, we had ups and downs, and some say Mike ruled with an iron fist. And it's easy to mistake his passion that he had. When you got to really know him, it wasn't that he was mean or whatever. It's just he was extremely passionate about what he did. And I got to see that and learn that. But I can tell you, I probably put some gray hair on his head in the early days. As young as I was remembering back, telling my wife this morning, Wasn't sure how I was going to explain it, but to keep it simple, I'd upset a tour one day in California. I was on the sales line, and a lot of tours going at once outside on the big deck, everyone pitching, and Mike standing above watching. And I really upset this couple because I was a little smart aleck at the time, and so the guy got upset and walks over, confronts me. Mike kind of breaks it up, and he says to me, he says, "You're fired." Do that. I thought, well, I left. I was living on the park, went back, and I, of course, I was 25, 26 years old. It was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I sat down, got something to drink, was wondering what the heck I was going to do. My phone rang about 2:45, 2:50. He said, "Are you going to come back here and take a 3 o'clock tour?" He said, and then was mad because I was late getting back anyway. So we had some ups and downs like that, but I grew up a lot, and Mike helped me do that. In many ways, he stepped in and became a fatherly influence. He knows my actual father never was around a whole lot, and in my life a lot. And Mike stepped in, and he loved to give advice at work, for my personal life, for everything. And it was good advice, and he always meant well. And he never led me down a path that was. He was very selfless, and I'll tell you, I made a lot of decisions based on that advice, and they served me really well, and have come a long ways. I won't go on that, but let's see. I'll tell you, I was just remembering some funny stories. Also, a time when I was younger, this is still a Colorado River adventure. I was his top salesman there. I think I had a frontline closing percentage of 45, 46%. It was really high. And he didn't want me to miss any work. I wanted to leave for a weekend. I ended up taking off, even with him knowing that he didn't want me to, and leaving those days. And I remember getting back, and he was so mad. He said, "Lonnie," he said, you cost me $80,000 leaving. And I remember hearing that and thinking, I thought, I'm going to say something back. I said, "Mike, you can't count money you don't have." Yeah. He stood up, was so mad, chased me around this little table kind of, and he said, "Lonnie," he said, "you're costing me arms and legs." It was good. Not just an arm and a leg, but arms and legs. And I'll never forget that. It was burned in. I'll tell you another note I made on here. So I was with Ocean Canyon at the beginning for about 5 years. I left a little while, I tried my own thing, and then came back in 2017 and have been with them ever since. But the little period of time in between, I was going back out to live in San Diego for a while. I filed for unemployment. And I don't remember how it happened. We ended up on an appeal call, and what do you know, Mike was present on the call as a witness. And I'm going to tell you something that I never saw coming. We got in the middle of this, and they're kind of going back and forth, and Mike stops everything. He's the witness at the time. He told that unemployment guy and me, he said, "I'll take him back right now." And he said, "I offer you a job, come right now, I'll put you to work," and offered me a job on that unemployment hearing. You want to talk about throwing me for a curveball? I didn't even know what to say. And he meant it and was serious. I lost that case. But I'll tell you what, I don't know how many people probably have been offered a job by the employer on the unemployment call, and he was sincere. And I'm going to tell you, a game changer for Mike, and watching his life change is when he met you, Amy. I mean, change for the better. You want to talk about a puppy dog love and a kid. You were the best thing, I swear, that ever happened to him. And I don't want to get emotional, but he loved you. He loved you so much, and you guys took me in as a young man into your house. When I'd come into Texarkana, he would insist I stayed there. He treated me like family, just like one of his own, and I will always remember that. And didn't matter, he could separate business and personal, and even when Mike would get really mad, those of you who know that and have seen that, he got over it really quick. He's a professional, he could get mad at 2:15, be in a meeting at 2:30 and be over it and moving on to he didn't hold on to it, he moved on. And I love that. A couple of Mike-isms, and I'll tell you, he used to always say, it's really easy in management. This is way back when I started. He said there are 3 things. He said, expect, inspect, take action. Tell your employees what you expect, set expectations. Here's what I expect you to do. Watch them, inspect their work, really simple, right? And then take action. Either either a kick in the butt or a pat on the back, and attaboy, right? Then the famous Mikeism, there's only about a 1 foot difference between a pat on the back and a kick in the butt. And usually the best place for you to keep your hand is somewhere right in the middle. I feel like he kept his a little lower maybe sometimes, but closer to the can. No, just kidding. But these are things that really stuck with me, and he said that. Those of you who have worked with him have heard him say all of these things. He loved speed of the team, speed of the leader, or the fish rods from the head down. I love those. Those are great, great things. When he was negotiating, something that stuck in my mind, I was like Peter, I kept hearing these stories and thinking of new things would come up that he'd say, but I remember going to car dealerships and him negotiating cars, and watching him negotiate was something else, but he would always tell somebody, I'm gonna make you an offer. He said, now remember, my first offer is always my best. He would offer him a price. If they him-hawed around, came back, said, give me another offer, didn't take it, he lowered the offer. His first offer is always his best. And you want to talk about seeing people surprised or not know how to react, and if, he would turn around and walk out. He was a good negotiator, and I learned a lot from him on negotiating. Sharpen your pencil, right, Renee? That's right. Anyways, I was thinking before this all started just to get up and tell some stories, say what Mike meant, because no matter what I say, I'm never going to encompass everything that he meant to me and to everybody else, but living legend, I think, sums it up about as good as anything else. And I got very lucky to be around him for so long, and it was a priceless education. I owe a lot to him, both professionally and personally. Anyways, I know he's watching down on us, and I wish he could be here. We're having some of the best sales months and weeks that we've ever had in the company. And